Okay, now I'm back. I'm sorry you have an interruption. Okay, so we were talking about the messages, right, of the girls. So when he asked the invisible intelligences what caused this change, he was told that spirits of a much higher order than those who habitually communicate through the two young mediums have come expressly for you and will continue to do so in order to enable you to fulfill an important religious mission. Much astonished at such unexpected announcement, he immediately proceeded to test its truthfulness by drawing up a series of progressive questions in relation to the various problems of human life and the universe in which we find ourselves, and submitted them to these unseen interlocutors. He received their answers to these questions through the instrumentality of the two young mediums who willingly consented to devote a couple of evenings every week to this purpose, and who thus obtained through table rapping and planchette writing the replies that have become the basis of the Spiritist theory, and which they were as little capable of appreciating as of inventing. When these conversations had been going on for nearly 2 years, he remarked to his wife one day in reference to the unfolding of these views, which she had followed with intelligent sympathy. It is a most curious thing. My conversations with the invisible intelligences have completely revolutionized my ideas and convictions. The instructions thus transmitted constitute an entirely new theory of human life, duty, and destiny, which appears to me to be perfectly rational and coherent, admirably lucid and consoling, and intensely interesting. I have a greater mind to publish these conversations in a book, for it seems to me that what interests me so deeply might very likely prove interesting to others as well. His wife warmly approved of the idea, and so he then submitted it to his unseen interlocutors, who replied in the usual way that it was they who had suggested it to his mind, that their communications had been made to him not for himself alone, but for the express purpose of being given to the world as he proposed to do, and that the time had now come for putting his plan into action. To the book in which you will embody our instructions, continue the communicating intelligences, you will give as being our work rather than yours the title Le Livre des Esprits, the Spirit's Book. You shall not publish it under your own name, but the pseudonym Allan Kardec. Keep your own name, Revile, for your own books already published, but take and keep the name we have now given you for the book you are about to publish under our orders, and in general for all the work that you will have to do to fulfill the mission, which, as we have already told you, has been confined to you by Providence, and which will gradually open before you as you proceed in it under our guidance. The book thus produced and published sold very quickly, winning converts not only in France but all over the continent, and making the name of Allan Kardec a household word to the readers who knew him only in connection with it. From that time onwards, he was called only by that name, except by his old personal friends, with whom both he and his wife always retained their family name. Soon after his publication, he founded the Parisian Society of Psychological Studies, of which he was president until death, and which he met every Friday evening at his house for the purpose of obtaining from spirits, through writing mediums, instructions in the elucidation of truth and duty. Until his death, he also founded and edited a monthly magazine entitled La Revue Spirit, which was devoted to advocating the views set forth in the Spirit's book. Similar associations were quickly formed all over the world. Many published periodicals of varying degrees of importance in the support of the new doctrine, and all of them transmitted to the Parisian society the most remarkable of the spirit communications they received. An enormous mass of spirit teaching, unique both in quantity and in the variety of the sources from which it was obtained, thus found its way into the hands of Kardec, who studied, collated, and coordinated it with unwearied zeal and devotion over a period of 15 years. From the materials thus furnished to him from every quarter of the globe, he enlarged and completed the Spirit's book under the direction of the Spirits, by whom it was originally dictated. The revised edition of the book, which he published in 1857, see Preface to the revised edition, has become the recognized textbook of the school of spiritualist philosophy, so intimately associated with his name. From the same materials he subsequently compiled 4 other works: the Medium's Book, a practical treatise on mediumship and evocations, 1861, The Gospel According to Spiritism, an exposition of morality from the Spiritist point of view, 1864, Heaven and Hell, a vindication of the justice of the divine government of the human race, 1865, and Genesis, showing the concordance of the Spiritist theory with the discoveries of modern science and with the general tenor of the Mosaic record as explained by the Spirits, 1868. He also published 2 short treatises entitled What is Spiritism? And Spiritism Reduced to its Simplest Expression. It is to be remarked in connection with the works just mentioned that Kardec was not himself a medium, and was therefore obliged to avail himself of the mediumship of others in obtaining the spirit communications from which they were evolved. The theory of life and duty, so immediately connected with his name and labors, that it is often erroneously supposed to have been the product of his single mind, or of the Spirit's in immediate connection with him, is therefore far less the expression of a personal or individual opinion than are any of the other spiritualistic theories propounded thus far. This is because the basis of the religious philosophy laid down in his works was not in any way the product of his own intelligence, but was as new to him as to any of his readers. It was progressively educed by him from the concurrent statements of a legion of spirits through many thousands of mediums, who were known to each other and belonged to different countries and to every variety of social position. In person, Kardec was somewhat under middle height and strongly built, with a large, round, massive head, well-marked features, and clear gray eyes. He looked more German than French, energetic and persevering, but of a temperament that was calm, cautious, and unimaginative almost to coldness, incredulous by nature and by education, a close, logical reasoner, and eminently practical in thought and deed. He was equally free from mysticism and enthusiasm, devoid of ambition, indifferent to luxury and display. The modest income he had acquired from teaching and from the sale of his educational works sufficed for the simple style of living he had adopted, and allowed him to devote all the profits arising from the sale of spirits books and from the Revue Spirit to propagating the movement he initiated. His excellent wife relieved him from all domestic and worldly cares, and thus enabled him to consecrate himself entirely to the work to which he believed himself to have been called, and which he pursued with unswerving devotion to the exclusion of all extraneous occupations, interests, and companionships from the time he first began it until he died. He made no visits beyond a small circle of intimate friends, and very rarely left Paris, spending his winters in the heart of the town in the rooms where he published his Revue, and his summers at the Villa Ségur, a little semi-rural retreat which he had built and planted to be his home in his wife's old age, and which was located in the suburban region behind the Champ de Mars. The area is now crossed in every direction by broad avenues and is quickly being built over, but at the time it was a sort of wasteland and might still pass for the country. Grave, slow of speech, unassuming in manner, yet not without a certain quiet dignity resulting from the earnestness and single-mindedness which were the distinguished traits of his character, neither courting nor avoiding discussion, but never voluntarily any remark upon the subject to which he had devoted his life. He gracefully received innumerable visitors from every part of the world who came to converse with him in regard to the views of which he was the recognized exponent. He answered questions and objections, explained difficulties, and provided information to all serious inquirers, with whom he talked with freedom and animation, his face occasionally lighting up with a genial and pleasant smile, though his habitual sobriety of demeanor was such that he was never known to laugh. Among the thousands by whom he was thus visited were many of high rank in the social, literary, artistic, and scientific worlds. The Emperor Napoleon III, whose interest in spirit phenomena was no mystery, sent for him several times and held long conversations with him at the Tuileries concerning the doctrines of the Spirit's book. Having suffered for many years from heart disease, Kardec drew up the plans in 1869 for a new spiritist organization that would carry on the work of spreading the doctrine after his death. In order to assure its existence, he gave it a legal and commercial status and was determined to make it a regularly comprised joint stock, limited liability, publishing and bookselling company to be constituted for a period of 90 years, with power to buy and sell, to issue stock, to receive donations and bequests, etc. To this society, which was to be called the Joint Stock Company for the continuation of the works of Allan Kardec, he intended to transfer the copyright to his spiritist writings and of the Revue Spirit. Allan Kardec, however, was not destined to witness the realization of the project in which he took so deep an interest, and which has since been carried out with entire exactitude by his widow. On March 31st, 1869, having just finished drawing up the Constitution and rules of the society from which he foresaw that he would soon be removed, he was seated in his usual chair at his desk in his rooms on Rue Sainte-Anne, and was tying up a bundle of papers when his busy life was suddenly brought to an end. When his busy life was suddenly brought to an end by the rupture of an aneurism from which he had so long suffered. His passage from the earth to the spirit world, with which he had so closely identified himself, was instantaneous, painless and without a sigh or tremor, and a most peaceful falling asleep and reawakening. A fit ending for such a life. His remains were interred in the cemetery of Montmartre, in presence of a great concourse of friends, many hundreds of whom assembled were every year to the anniversary of his decease, during which a few commemorative words are spoken and fresh flowers and wreaths, as is usual in continental graveyards, are laid upon his tomb. It is impossible to precisely ascertain the number of those who have adopted the views set forth by Allan Kardec. They are estimated to be by themselves to be many millions, but they are at least incontestably very numerous. The periodicals devoted to the advocacy of these views in various countries already number over 40, and new ones are constantly appearing. Kardec's death has not slackened the acceptance of the views set forth by him, and which are believed by those who hold them to be the basis, but the basis only, of the new development of religious truth predicted by Christ, the beginning of the promised revelation of many things that have been kept hidden since the foundation of the world, and for the knowledge of which the human race was not ready at the time of that prediction. Anna Blackwell, Paris, 1876. That was the first part of the book, The Spirit's Book. We had to have this introduction to know who Allan Kardec was. I'm sorry if it was so long, but that's how it is. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you for being here. Big kiss. See you next time. Bye-bye.